if you thought there's nothing cringier than Rings of Power, Patton Oswalt's out there going, hold my Bud Light. My commentary on Rings of Power will be even worse. And it really is. And he's getting blown out pretty hard for it, which is pretty funny. And we'll get into that as we talk about this wonderful story. So Rings of Power is finally off the air, and good riddance. But it is going to return. I'm sorry to mention they are committed for a season 3 from what I've seen, and the studio is making bizarre comments about it. I mean, it's interesting, which we'll also get into in this. But again, like Patton Oswalt really shows how stupid Hollywood is, and how crazy that the left is. And when you get into what he says, and like of course. Dissect it, looking at it from a lens of like what Tolkien actually intended with Lord of the Rings, you can see why they fail at creating Lord of the Rings properties. And this is exactly the same mentality that the writers have, that the producers have. They don't understand Tolkien. They don't understand fantasy. They don't understand good and evil, because Hollywood is intrinsically evil. They're satanic. And so they can't write good and evil in a way that Tolkien, a good Catholic, did, obviously. It makes sense. And this is something to break down. So we'll get into this in a moment. My name's John Delarose, everybody, the most trusted name in science fiction and fantasy fandom. Please give me a like and subscribe here. We hit 40,000 subscribers yesterday. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are amazing, wonderful audience. Who they call you the toxic fandom or whatever, but I always get like a good interaction when I talk about my fantasy books here. This is my series, The Adventures of Baron von Monocle. It's a 6-book series. Go in on the whole thing this weekend and read this, or go through the audiobooks. It builds really, really nicely. I built a beautiful world. I mean, it's obviously nothing compared to Tolkien. I would never have that kind of hubris like Hollywood thinks they have. But it is a lot of fun, and I think I set up something pretty awesome here. So check it out. It's in the description below. Like I said, it really builds nicely as a series. And I think you'll very much enjoy it if you love fantasy fiction. Thank you so much again, and thanks for supporting our channel so much. We've had one of our best sales months ever, and it's all because of readers like you. So Prime Video's Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power has been a dismal failure, as we know. The ratings and the audience receptions are indicative of the fact that they ignore so much of the work Tolkien put into his fantasy world. However, after the second season ended, Hollywood seemed to be on a crusade to justify it, using one of their mouthpieces, Patton Oswalt, to make bizarre statements defending the show. Season 2 of Rings of Power had many people rolling their eyes about the show, if you don't remember, if they were still watching it. And this is my article, by the way. I write the articles too. Fandom Pulse is in the description below too, or fandompulse.com. If they were still watching it, initial ratings showed that nearly half of the audience tuned out between seasons 1 and 2, bloated 72-minute episodes being difficult for anyone to bear or return to. I tried to watch the show, guys, because I wanted to review all the episodes. I got up to episode 5 of season 1. I couldn't do it. They're so long. Even without the other stuff, like it's so boring and so long. It's tough. It really is. It's like they liked the Peter Jackson extended cuts and then forgot the fun parts of those movies, and then just like thought the length was what matters for fantasy. Maybe, oh gosh, maybe that was their thought. I mean, maybe they are that stupid. Part of the difficulties is they do not want to play within the rules of Tolkien's well-established fantasy world. Early in the season, Prime Video presented something that looked like it was out of a meme with refugee orcs holding a small infant as a family, and that's the image we have right here. Yes. Oh gosh, stunning and brave and stunning. Yeah, much wow. And so showrunner J.D. Payne said back in the day, he said, you read the books and you get these blips of moments where orcs are kind of their own. And they're saying, hey, what if one day there could be a place just for us? So we could have our own little land and our own little cottage by the sea, so to speak, where they have dreams, they have aspirations, they just don't want to be mindless killing machines. Oh gosh, it's so painful. Yeah, orcs are evil, and J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the orcs to be evil. That was the intention. They're actually meant to represent demonic entities. That elves are obviously meant to represent angels. It was very much a very Christian-inspired world that they made. And actually, Galadriel is the closest thing you're going to find to the Virgin Mary. That's kind of the point. And they bastardized all of that too. So this is just completely missing the mark. just because they don't want to acknowledge Tolkien's influences, because if they point to beauty and truth, if they point to what's good and what's evil, they're going to point towards the Lord Jesus Christ. And Hollywood can't do that. Not in their satanic apparatus. We know that. They hate Catholicism. They hate Christianity. They hate Christ more than anything. And that's why they can't tell a good story, especially when it comes to a setting like this. Beyond that, the show courted more controversy. They portrayed Sauron as an effeminate and crying loser, rather than like the scary Dark Lord that he is. And then, of course, we had the kiss between Galadriel and Elrond, which didn't make any sense given the context of the scene, even when they were trying to explain it away. And they actually came out and admitted that they did that just to court controversy. So as much as they complain about the toxic fans and all this stuff, their controversial stuff's highly intentional. Their bastardization of Tolkien is highly intentional. And that's why I have no pity for them whatsoever. Now, very bizarrely, Amazon's top bosses, one of them came out and said 55 million people have engaged with the show's second season. And I don't know where that came from, because doing the math, about 900,000 people watched it. 1.8 million watched the first season. So it's like, what's going on? 55 million is a big number. Have engaged with maybe means like, left downvotes on the trailer on YouTube, I guess. Is that because I know they got ratioed there pretty hard. So Patton Oswalt decided to stand for this. And Patton Oswalt is, if you don't know who he is, he's a trollish little comedian who's just super cringe, big Trump derangement, just one of the worst in Hollywood, and just lives a terrible debaucherous life like everybody else. Now, I covered him on my comic review channel, which is my secondary channel. It's called JDA Talks to Comics, if you guys want to go over there. I love comics, of course. And he wrote this Star Trek comic that just came out last month, where he just like turned the tribbles, if you remember this episode. This is Patton Oswalt, so I'm giving you context. I'm painting the brush for like how degenerate this guy is before getting into his stupid orc tweet. And if you look at it, he fetishized the Tribbles, and the whole stories, the Tribbles are in love with Captain Kirk and want to have sex with him. It's so gross. And so the text, the moment arrives, and I cry out in ecstasy. This is it. Fur and flesh. First contact. And then they put Captain Kirk's butt about to sit on the Tribble, which actually happened in the episode. But his luscious lumps lift me to new heights. Yes, Patton Oswalt wrote this. It is painful. This is some of the worst, disgusting fan fiction I've ever seen. You could see that he's ruining Star Trek and doesn't understand Star Trek whatsoever. And now he's going to show that he doesn't understand Rings of Power whatsoever, and he understands Rings of Power. He doesn't understand Tolkien, and this is crazy. This is the craziest take I've maybe ever seen. What makes season 2 of Rings of Power deeper than season 1? Deeper. Well, I mean, I guess it is deeper than season 1, which had no depth. Seeing the orcs mourn their dead, struggle to find a home in the world, and worry about their families makes the battle sequence more exciting and heartbreaking. They're not just a faceless horde. Oh, boy. So he's humanizing the orcs. He's saying that the orcs are just as heckin' valid in their identity as those elves. And that makes the battle exciting. It's not. That's actually the opposite way to make battles exciting. Evil being evil and having good really struggle to overcome it, and then finally get that moment where they overcome that pure evil. That's what makes battles exciting. That's what made Lord of the Rings Lord of the Rings. That's why you really care in Return of the King what's going on. This is like quite the opposite. You don't care, because if the orcs aren't really that bad and they just want to have families for themselves and they're just refugees who want to eat your cats or whatever, but they want to live their own lives eating your cats, they're somebody to sympathize with. And that's stupid. And it's the opposite of what Tolkien wants. And it's crazy. So, of course, he's getting just a ton of pushback on this, and he's bragging about it. He has a bad, stupid take that bastardizes Tolkien. And here's, of course, love all the pushback. Would rather people be so into a fictive world they're this wound up than shrugging their shoulders. Rock on, haters. There's room for all of us. Oh, my gosh. Now, I saw a comment earlier, which was pretty funny, that said maybe Patton Oswalt just identifies with the orcs because he's kind of like an orc himself. And maybe that's the case. Maybe this is a point where representation does matter, and Patton Oswalt feels seen, because it's the only way this makes sense whatsoever. Rings of Power is just ridiculous. It's really sad that they are committed to a third season because they should abandon it at this point. Just leave it alone. It's dead. And gosh, Patton Oswalt, just stop. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out my book For Steam and Country on Amazon and its sequels as well. You can get the whole series, The Adventures of Baron von Monocle, right here. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back soon.